Before he became the senator from Florida, Senator Scott was previously Governor Scott, a governor of one of the most heavily populated states in America. And prior to that, he's famous in the business world, personally employing hundreds of thousands of people. So the Department of Homeland Security is an enormous organization. Nobody understands how best to run an enormous organization and to do so with exceptional skill better than Senator Scott. And nobody understands better than him how the buck stops with the person running that organization. We'd love to hear from him now.
Well, I want to thank my colleague from Utah for his commitment to the rule of law, his commitment to the Constitution, all of his efforts today, and every day he's been up here to make sure that the Senate follows the Constitution, doesn't set precedents that don't make any sense, and today is a horrible day. So I also want to thank my colleague from Wisconsin for being such a voice on making sure that the public actually knows what's going on here. The information he puts out, the charts he uses, the information he has gives everybody an idea of what's actually going on. So, but unfortunately today, Democrats' assault on American democracy had a banner day. Democrats in the Senate said that impeachments by the United States House of Representatives don't matter anymore. You have to have a trial. They don't matter. According to what Democrats did today, we don't need to hold impeachment trials here in the Senate ever. This is a horrible precedent. It's not what the Constitution envisioned. It doesn't matter if, for example, you're a cabinet secretary and that you've instructed your agency to ignore the law and not execute the laws of the United States. It doesn't matter if by order an agency to ignore the laws of the United States, Americans are murdered. They are. They have been. It doesn't matter if by order an agency to ignore the laws of the United States, deadly fentanyl pours into our communities and poisons our children and our grandchildren. It doesn't matter if by order an agency to ignore the laws of the United States, terrorists on the FBI terrorist watch list and migrants with known gang affiliations stream into our country, to such an extent that the FBI director testified sitting right next to Secretary Mayorkas before Congress that this is the most dangerous time in America since 9/11. Just stop and think about it for your family for a second. Think about either your mom or your dad, your spouse, your brother or your sister, a child or a grandchild, niece or nephew. Just think of one of them. Just pick one of them. You cherish, you love them. You can think of wonderful things about them. Now, for thousands of American families, that person that you're thinking about today is dead. Let me say it again. For thousands of American families, the person that you're thinking about today is dead. They've been taken too soon by the deadly fentanyl crisis that have ravaged our nation because of the wide open southern border. Look, every one of us knows some family that has been ripped apart by the deadly fentanyl crisis. Everybody does. Some of us have been impacted directly. Fentanyl is killing 70,000 people a year. That's 70,000 families that are torn apart because we have an open southern border. It's happening in part because instead of letting our brave Border Patrol do their job and stop these deadly drugs, Secretary Mayorkas intentionally is using them to let even more people illegally cross the border and come to our country and get all sorts of nice services. They get phones, they get lawyers, they get hotel rooms, all paid for by the U.S. taxpayer. Every victim of Secretary Mayorkas' order for his agency has a name. Everybody's got, I mean, think about that family member. I've heard a lot of heartbreaking stories from people at my house, or my home state. Florida families are feeling the impact of this administration's lawless border crisis every single day. Deadly fentanyl, criminals, terrorists, human traffickers. They pour across Biden's open border. This is all intentional. there are 1,145 children between 14 and 18 years old who died from fentanyl in 2021. So that's like having a classroom of kids die every week. Every week. In 2022, I heard from a mom in Kissimmee, just outside Orlando, where her son was in the Air Force, and he had a bright future in the Air Force. He came home to surprise her on Mother's Day weekend. He unfortunately visited an old friend who he didn't know had been dealing drugs. The friend convinced the young man to take a Xanax, which was unknowingly laced with fentanyl. The mom found him dead. Came home to just surprise her for her birthday. He's dead. Put yourself in the position of that mom. What is she thinking about today? What is she thinking about when she watches the Senate floor and every Democrat says, the guy that made the decision to open the southern border will not be held accountable? This 26-year-old Ashley Dunn is another American we've lost to fentanyl poisoning. Ashley's mother, Josephine Dunn, says their daughter did not overdose, but was poisoned by 1/2 of one Percocet tablet that was counterfeit. According to Ms. Dunn, her daughter was murdered by products made in Mexico that were welcomed into this country by Mayorkas and his administration. Today, Senate Democrats made certain that Secretary Mayorkas will never have to answer. He's never going to answer for Ashley's death. He's never going to have to answer for any of the other deaths. But you know what? He'll know what he did. People know too much of what he did. He'll never get away with this. America is a more dangerous place because Mayorkas and Biden have allowed criminals, drugs, terrorists, and other dangerous people into our communities all over the country. Real Americans with families are being killed. Real American families are being torn apart by vicious crimes and deadly drugs because we have a wide open southern border. If you go to the southern border, on the other side, they have IDs everywhere because they don't want the people, Border Patrol that meets them on our side, to know who they are. Why would you do that? Secretary Mayorkas is the first and only sitting cabinet secretary to be impeached. He will always be known as the first sitting cabinet secretary to be impeached. And now, he's forever going to be blocked from being acquitted of that charge. I wonder how that makes him feel. He will never get that chance to be acquitted because of what the Senate Democrats did today. I still have a question for my Senate colleagues. Did you silence Mayorkas today because Democrats are terrified of his record and unable to defend him? Or just because they don't trust him? Whatever the answer is, the thing that every reporter here and every American needs to understand is this. Democrats put politics over the safety of American families and the security of our great nation today. I fear the consequences of that unprecedented failure will be devastating beyond our worst fears. I think it's going to take decades to rid the criminals from this country. And in the meantime, how many people like Ashley are going to lose their life? How many people are going to be raped? How many people are going to be put into slavery? I hope to God it doesn't happen to your family. Thank you.